Welcome to West of Tulsa. I'm CJ Ward, and we are broadcasting from Ventura, California. Most of the team is here. Helm is not here. Did he get lost?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I just heard he's looking for a Honda station wagon.
He is.
So maybe he found one. So he's not joining us.
Yeah, he probably found a couple of them. Who knows?
All right, we wish him luck. All right. Everybody else is here. We got Beth is here. Gabe is here.
Yo.
Dan is here.
Hey.
And our guest is here, Christina Jimenez. Yeah. Thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Actually, you know what? I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Because here's what I do every week. At the end, I give our tip line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to change that up because I don't think, has anybody actually made it to the end of one of our shows?
One
person.
Yeah, but he wanted to sell us real estate in Florida.
Okay. So we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to put the tip line at the top. Just in case you've never made it to the end of one of our shows, we have a tip line. Go to our website, westoftulsa.com, and there's a page called the tip line. You can just click on that, fill it out. We'd love to have you in studio, or maybe we'll go to you, depending on where you are. But we'd love to hear your story. That's what we're all about here, stories, right? And Christina has a great story, so we're going to get to her. So tell us, most people would know you on social media as Lane Drifters.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And explain what that is. How did you come up with the name? And
Okay. Yeah. So, well, like back in the day, late 90s, I was really into JDM, particularly import drag racing was kind of the thing before Fast and Furious came out.
Yeah.
So I was also really fascinated by drifting, which at that time was mostly big in Japan. It hadn't really made its way here yet. So I don't know, Lane Drifters kind of was a name that I think I started out as an old email address I was using. And it just kind of morphed into this. I just kind of started to use the name, and with socials and things like that, I was just Lane Drifters.
I think it's a great name.
Yeah.
But real quickly,
It's a great
just for people like me who don't know what drifting is,
knew this
and I
was
do know
coming.
what we got to know.
Yeah.
What is drifting? The practice of drifting.
Helm wants to know too. He doesn't know.
Okay, well, here's the funny thing. I've loved drifting most of my life, but only recently have I started to get more into it. I used to do a lot of drag racing, and then it went from that to track racing, and now it's into drifting. So I'm still learning a lot about it. I've only I've actually only been in one event where I rented a drift car because I didn't even have a drift car. But basically it's like track racing, but there are a lot more corners, and it is an art of drifting around a corner and making your way out into the next corner. You burn a lot of tires in drifting. It's an expensive sport, but it's so much fun, so much adrenaline. And like I said, I've done so much racing over the years, and this one, for some reason, when I do ride-alongs with friends, I'm my adrenaline is just going for maybe a couple hours.
And I think for Beth's issues, you're wondering, was the car slide?
Yeah, it's a sliding.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm picturing driving down the 101, and all of a sudden you get to a work construction obstacle, and that you don't incorporate drifting there.
No. And basically,
you shouldn't.
With track racing, it's like a grip thing where you want as much grip as you can get, and you stay on the track. And a lot of times when we do track racing, they always warn you, don't be doing any of that drifting stuff here.
Yeah.
This is grip racing.
You must be talking about Streets of Willow.
Yeah, streets in particular. But yeah, so drifting, and that was the hardest part for me when I did my first event, is my brain didn't quite comprehend that I needed to slide.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to take the corners and grip, and it's kind of the opposite of that. So yeah.
The way I like to describe it, and I don't know if this would be accurate, is it's kind of like car ballet, because it's not who gets to the finish line first, although there is some of that. And you get judged. So there's a panel of judges that watch, how you come into the corner, at what speed you come in, and if you're doing it solo or doing it tandem with another car.
Yes.
It truly is kind of like a ballet, I think, because it's about the form. It's not so much about who's the fastest.
That's right.
Or whatever, So that's the
It's
difference.
highly technical.
Very technical. Oh, very technical.
It's
Very
really
technical,
technical
yeah.
style of
It
driving.
almost sounds like
Especially with
surfing,
tandems.
Yes.
dropping
Yes.
into this wave,
Yes.
but dropping into
Ballet is an excellent way of saying that, especially when it comes to tandems, because with tandems, not a lot of people do tandems. You have to be very comfortable with the driver that you're doing
Yeah.
a tandem with,
Right.
because a lot of times you touch.
Yeah.
You're that close to each other.
Yeah.
When you go around corners, you're following each other basically. So you have to have a good relationship with the driver, and you have to have pretty good experience under your belt for tandem driving.
Yeah.
Tandem driving is one of the most funnest things to watch.
Yeah, especially they just do it like not just two; they'll do 4 or more cars,
yeah.
like all in sync with each other. There's like
Yeah.
team sports. I think Final Bout does that. You know, there's a group here in the United States that they do these. Is because it's been popular in Japan for decades, probably. And it just when it came to the States, it kind of like blew up. You know, and everybody got into it because you don't have to have a very fast car. You need good tires, and brakes, obviously, and a seat. And pretty much anybody could go drifting. You don't need a 1,000 horsepower car. You don't need to have the most power. It is expensive. I think all car
And there's a
sports-
bit of a setup to the car to get
Yes.
it to drift
Yes,
the
yes.
right way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is suspension that is
Yeah.
very important in drifting. People need angle kits sometimes so they can get the right, fit, all that.
You know, I've never done it before, but and I've always wondered when you're drifting, since it is so technical, when you're getting ready to take that turn and go into the drift. I mean, when you're starting off doing it, I would imagine that's got to be a difficult.
Yeah.
One of the most difficult things is getting that car into that motion.
Yes.
Talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit because
Well, so I'm still learning. So, and that's the thing with me. I really, to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about it yet. I'm still learning. I've only done a couple ride-alongs with people who know a lot about drifting, and it's a lot of steering. Steering is obviously what it is all about. Like you have to know how to steer, and the whole clutch kick versus like if you have an e-brake. There's just so much to it, and like I said, I'm still learning. I rented a drift car the last time I did it, and there were things in the car where I was like, okay, well, what does this do? And he's like, well, don't touch that yet. You're not ready for that. I'm like, okay.
it was an ejection seat, right?
Yeah.
In case you screw it up
It
so
would
badly,
look- yeah.
boom, hit that button.
Most of the stuff in there looks like that, but no. I always recommend that if you're gonna get into drifting, just like for me, I started out on a skid pad. You try and do some donuts or some figure eights just to get used to it.
the control of
Things, yeah.
Is there a little slope elevation? It's not all flat when you're going into this? Or?
No, well, it depends on the
depends.
track. Some tracks are different. I know the one that I went to was Apple Valley Speedway, and that one it's pretty flat.
Okay.
But like Willow Springs has a few different tracks there. Like Horse Thief is one of the tracks that they do a lot of drifting on, and that one does have some elevation here and there. So that one's a little more tricky from what people have told me. I've not been on that one yet. But
Are you accelerating? Are you slowing down as you go into the actual?
It depends. Well, again, on the tracks, I guess it depends. But when you are lining yourself up for the first corner, like at Apple Valley, I mean, you get a ton of speed going into it. That's really what you want to set yourself up.
What's a ton of speed?
Well, I think when I went with my last ride along, I think she was going probably about 40 on that particular entry. But it just depends again on the track and how much room you have and all that stuff. I mean, some of those guys they go really fast.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty gnarly.
they're up at the 80 mile an hour
Yes,
the turns,
yeah.
and then they're kicking the rear end out, and they're drifting around it. So speed does matter because you get judged on speed, but angle and how you exit the turn.
Control.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of things that you get judged on, and there's different ways to do it. Everybody has a different way of doing things. It would be the clutch kick or the e-brake or the feint drift or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all about style. And preference too. So it's technical, but it's also style, which I think a lot of people really, really like. I never really got into it because I just like speed, so I just like drag racing, But for the drifts, I see the attraction to it because you can have a low horsepower car and still have an awesome drift car. A lot of the guys who have the A86 Corollas, the rear-wheel drive Corollas, they don't have a lot of power, but they're light cars. They're fun,
Right.
So and every car is different, So
And again, it may depend on the setup.
yeah.
how
Yeah.
you set that car up.
Yeah.
And then the reaction when people see you get out of the car and you're a woman. You're this beautiful woman coming out and you just did all these wonderful, cool moves.
Yeah. Well, it's funny with drifting. I've only come out of a passenger door so far because I've just been practicing. But like the track racing and stuff like that, there's a lot more women now. It's pretty amazing. Like the last track day I did at Willow Springs, I think we had probably about 6 women out there, which is pretty good. I mean, when I started drag racing, there was maybe only 1 or 2 of us out there.
You and Lisa Kubo, maybe?
Lisa Kubo. So she was my mentor. That was who I grew up with. I went to the drag strip and she was out there wrenching on her car.
Yeah.
And she was the one that was really what did it. She was the woman who did it for me. And I told her too, when I first started Miss Motorhead, I was like, can I feature you on my page? Because I want everybody to know that you were the one that did it for me.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
would you say that's your strength in terms of driving? What you talk are you just like straight ahead speed?
Yeah,
drag racing?
so
Is that what you're into?
I'm
or?
kind of an adrenaline junkie, and I like to drive fast. Unfortunately, I got a speeding ticket on Saturday, but
As long as you didn't say it was coming here.
it was not coming here.
Right.
But no, yeah, I like driving fast, so that's why I like track racing for a long time. I like drag racing, but drag racing was kind of boring for me. There's just so much like it was fun and exciting, and I think it is a good start to racing, but track racing was probably what I had the most fun because I could go really fast. And I haven't done any really big racetracks. Like I never did Big Willow. I always tended to do Streets of Willow, which is a little smaller. But yeah, I like driving fast. I also wanted to get into rally racing at one time because I'm big in the Subaru community, and I have a lot of girlfriends who do rally racing up north. And so I kind of wanted to get into that at one time. But it's where we live, it's a little harder because a lot of the races are up north. So you have to drive 5 hours to go to a race. Whereas at least here I can go to a drag strip. I could go to streets. It's like 2 hours most.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you drive? What kind of cars do you like? You mentioned Subaru. So
Yes.
what do you have? I know you have a
Yeah.
nice wagon.
Yeah, so I have my Subaru Legacy wagon. What's funny is I bought that car about 16 years ago because I had kids and they weren't fitting in my little 240. The car seats just weren't fitting anymore. And we wanted a wagon for the space for strollers and things like that. But also I needed something with power because I am not a minivan person. So I was like, I am not doing a minivan. But we found that wagon in San Diego, and it was actually from Hawaii. He was in the military. So I remember driving down there and picking it up and driving home in the pouring rain, and it was so fast. And I got home and I remember being like, this does not feel like a family car. This is perfect. So yes, I've had it for 16 years. It started out as my mom wagon, and then eventually as the kids got older, and we started to kind of get back into racing a little bit more, I started to just soup it up a little bit more. And now pretty much everything is built on the engine. It's kind of maxed out, except for doing the shift to 85. I haven't done that. The 85.
Yeah.
So.
Is it has it got the 2.5?
Yes.
In there? Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
What'd you drive here today, by the way? I forgot to ask that.
Yeah, so
question.
today I brought the 240, which is that's a funny story. So the 240 was basically like my first real car. I had hand-me-downs as like a young girl. Like I remember I did my driving test in my 1964 Plymouth Fury 2. It was a massive boat. It had the curb feelers on it.
Oh, yeah.
I did my driver's test in that, and I loved that car. It was fun. I could fit like 10 of my friends in that car. So I
Did
went.
you drift in it during the driver's test?
No, that never happened. That car literally felt like driving a couch down the road.
A living room, like I always say.
It was fun though. I love that car. But my first real car that I actually bought myself was the 240 in 98. I bought that car. And I remember it was funny because I couldn't drive manual yet. And so I remember I took my ex at the time and we went up to Shaver in Thousand Oaks. That's where it was. And he actually had to drive it home, and I was so sad because I'm like, this is so sad. This is my first like real car, and I can't even drive it home from the dealership.
That's funny.
But we made it home, and then the next day I started driving, and so that's technically my first car, and and that's the car that I did my import drag racing in at the track. Typically, it was LACR back in the day.
Oh man.
Palmdale.
Oh yeah.
We did a lot of like events like Battle of the Imports. And
Oh, yeah.
all that hot auto. What is it? Auto Salon or hot auto import nights.
Hot
or
import
whatever.
nights,
Yeah.
yeah.
Back in the day. But yeah, so I had her for like maybe 12 years. And that's, again, I had the kids and the car seats wouldn't fit in it anymore. And I needed something more practical. So I sold the 240 to a kid from Las Vegas. And he came out with his family and bought it. And I was so sad, but it is what it is. And he had it for 10 years. And I would say like the last few years, I was kind of stalking him a little bit on Instagram because I kept telling him, like, if you ever sell it, please sell it back to me. I would love to have my car back. And so we chatted about that for a few years. And finally he was like, guess what? I think I'm ready to sell it back to you.
Nice.
And yeah, and that was October of 2022. So
Just got it back.
I
And
just got it back.
And he didn't tear it all apart.
No, and this is what's amazing. He's an amazing guy. He I think for him he was getting closer to 30 and he was kind of like, okay, I don't really have a lot of time to spend on it anymore. He bought it and he literally parked it in his garage and he just wanted to make it like just a great show car and clean and original. So he started like replacing parts and he would sometimes buy a couple parts at a time. So like when I picked up the car from him, he had boxes and boxes of stuff.
Wow.
And he only put 8,000 miles
Oh
on
my
it
gosh.
in the 10 years that he had it. It was
Score right there.
it was super clean. And I remember when I got into it, he had pulled it out for me and I was like so excited. I'm like, oh my God, my car. I got into it and it still smelled the same. And I was like, oh my gosh,
That's cool.
This is too crazy. I can't believe I'm getting my car back. So it's kind of like a big story when I first got it back because everybody knew for years I was talking about how, I wish I would have never sold it. And I always like told everybody, don't sell your cars because, most of the time you don't get them back.
Most people have one of those
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to sell it.
So that's the car I brought today.
Fair to say that it's in better, when you picked it up from him, it was in better shape than when you sold it.
I
to
would
him?
say yes. Yeah.
Wow.
He did a great job. He restored a few things. What's funny is he left my very first mod, which was the InGen intake on it. He left it there. So it's still on the car and it even still has the original, sticker on it, emission sticker.
Oh, wow.
That says that it's
50 state legal.
Yes, which it's not now, but you never see those stickers anymore. So it's like, oh, this is so cool.
Throwback.
And you're working on a project right now. You said, are you working on something new? Or?
No. So I want to get a drift car. So I have a friend who has a business that he sells a lot of the drift cars. And so he's possibly going to keep his eye out for a 350Z that I can get. Those
good
are really
one.
good,
Yeah.
like beginner drift cars.
Oh, yeah.
They're supposed to be a little easier to wrench on and get parts for.
Yeah.
And they have decent power, really good suspension. So so that's kind of what I'm gearing up to get. But I also want to sell the Subaru because I want to get another wagon. I really want to get maybe like an Audi or a Volvo wagon. I want to get something a little more luxury, something that I won't race.
Oh, Helm's wearing off on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Helm was here, he'd say, get a Mercedes wagon.
Yeah.
Do you see more cities and jurisdictions kind of dedicating land to racing and to drifting and all these different types of sports with
No,
cars?
unfortunately.
Not in California.
No,
Less,
not
less.
Not in California. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I think a lot of it is just too expensive. There's too much liability. And so I think a lot of people just kind of, shy away from wanting to even start something like that.
Yeah,
So-
there's more tracks closing than opening now.
Yes, there
so,
is, yeah.
two big racetracks closed last year, and it was It's pretty sad.
And that's been the problem for a long time.
Yeah.
In California.
Yeah.
But then you hear more and more about these illegal street takeovers, right?
Yeah.
So are
which is
they-
not racing
No.
or drifting. It's
No.
a bunch of who
Are they,
knows
are they
out
trying
there.
to are they trying to emulate a certain type
No,
of
they're
sport?
just it's
No, it's
I don't know what you would call it, like sensationalism. They're kind of like they're just, doing things for the shock value, maybe on Instagram or whatever. And there's no real motorsport to it. I'm sure some people that are for it that would argue that, but it's just I think it does more harm than anything else.
Yeah.
And it makes a bad name for people like us who want to go drifting or who want to go racing, and want to drive our cars on the street. We're just not going to do it on the street. That's what the tracks are for, and I just don't think it's a smart thing to do.
No, it's unfortunate. And it's luckily now, I think, because the police really jumped on it, I think it's going to start to happen a lot less. Like they recently, I think there was one that got shut down and they like fully arrested like 50 people.
Yeah, they brought a bus.
They bought a bus. Yeah. So I think eventually it will diminish. I'm hoping, because I just don't like the way that people are really getting hurt, and it's and it's all over social media, and it's just unfortunate that it's associated with all people who like cars, and that is just not the case. So yeah.
So when it comes to legal car
legal
acts,
stuff.
and that's what
Yeah.
you say Japan is doing it right and doing it well. Or
Well-
who is?
Well, I mean, we are here. It's just okay, so with drifting, I mean, there are some people who may just find a corner somewhere, and also too, okay, for me, I'm a huge canyon runner. I love canyons. That's one of my favorite things, is driving the canyons. And I'm guilty of probably going too fast in the canyons, but that's where I've learned a lot of my my driving skills, is in the canyons, unfortunately, and that's not necessarily legal, but I obviously don't canyon run when there's a lot of people. I will tend to go really early in the morning.
Not on the weekend.
Yeah, not on the weekend.
Are these paved roads?
Yeah, 33.
Okay,
33.
okay.
I usually, that's one of my favorite canyons. I know that road, the ins and outs of
When
that
it's
road.
not washed out.
When it's exactly, I've been sad because it was washed out that one time, and I haven't actually been up there.
For anybody who doesn't know from our area, that's maybe Ojai.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's Ohio,
yeah,
It's a beautiful area.
Yes.
I can imagine that would be a lot of fun to drive.
It's a lot of fun, and that's one thing I didn't mention. So I'm vice president of 805 Subarus, which is a car club locally here. It's it's pretty much 805, but it also expands a little further out. And so I tend to do a lot of canyon cruises where we'll all meet up somewhere for coffee, and then we'll go and do a cruise. Sometimes we have 5 cars, sometimes we have 30 cars. Wow. So we've done the 33 canyon cruise with the club one time. So I have pictures of 20 Subarus coming around a corner. So we do a lot of stuff like that with the car club. But yeah, canyons. And it's funny, I do have a story for you. Canyon carving. I went on a camping trip to the Sequoias with our car club a few years ago, and I had never been to the Sequoias before. So we woke up super early one morning, 6 a.m. We decided to do a canyon run around the Sequoias. And those are truly canyons.
Oh, yeah.
And they are amazing. And that was the best run I've ever done. And they run hard. So it was so much fun. And I was so inspired that I came home, and that's when I designed my canyon carving art, which has been a big seller for me. I have beanies and T-shirts, and everybody
I saw
loves
the
it.
hat. I think you've got a hat.
Brian from Haggerty yesterday, he was wearing one of my beanies, and
There you go.
but stuff like that is what inspired me to do a lot of my design work, all the car stuff. So
and this is all on Lane Drifters. You can find.
Yeah. So I had a business called Lane Drifters Apparel a couple of years ago, and I was designing and selling stuff, but the t-shirt business is really hard because you have to constantly come up with new ideas. Mm-hmm. And so I went from that getting into Miss Motorhead, and Miss Motorhead is more of a passion for me. So I kind of stopped doing the Lane Drifters Apparel, but I have a few designs that are still big sellers, like the canyon carving design. I have a t-shirt called Speed Nuts, where it's drifting around a donut. So I have like that design that everybody loved. And then I did a rotary design that everybody loved because I had an FD.
Yeah.
And so I was big in the rotary community for a while. So I have a few designs still left. And I do a lot of work with car clubs. So I tend to design a lot of car club art and stuff for t-shirts and things still. So I'll do that side of things. But when it comes to my business, I stopped doing the Lane Drifters apparel. So I do still have my Instagram. It's up and running. I just don't update it anymore like I should. But
So the Miss Motorhead, that's your business account?
Yeah,
right?
The Miss Motorhead business. Basically, it started as a podcast. We thought it'd be a great idea to interview all of the women in motorsports. And I have a lot of friends in motorsports. So I kind of started with my group of friends first. And I only think I got through about 6 or 7 interviews before it shifted into me enjoying hosting and making events for women instead. So I started doing all female driven car shows, and I started doing all female driven races at the track. And I got such a great response, and I started to get women who were like, thank you so much for doing this. Like, makes us feel so comfortable that we can come and like not be judged, and we can just be our own person and not worry about like guys being like being intimidated by guys, which is a thing, unfortunately. But so I don't really do the podcast anymore. I would love to get back into it, but at this time I love doing shows and I love doing events, and I'm a pretty social person. So I'd much rather be out doing events than sitting
here, like
all the
what we're
time.
doing right now. You know, Beth is actually putting together. She's planning a takeover.
I am.
Yeah,
I take
all
over.
female show.
Oh
remember?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Well, that's a given.
She's kicking
Yes,
us
at some
out.
point.
Yeah, she's planning.
We'll do something
minute.
fun with that.
I know I haven't told you guys yet, but it's coming. Hold on, brace like this because it's coming.
But we have to have Gabe's permission to do a female takeover.
I highly recommend this.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a lot of fun. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, not to state the obvious, but I would think that Christina's our first female guest.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
So, which I think
Yes.
is
Okay.
awesome. And, you know,
Very cool. Well, thank you.
Elaine is the matriarch of the museum.
yeah.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, I did
VIP
see her.
guest, yes.
That's
Yes,
right.
I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
That's why I'm
Right.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Elaine
But you are.
is, you know,
but
the
as far
genesis
as we
start.
know, Elaine has never drifted. So
You know what? I bet you she has,
I
but
bet
she didn't know
you
that
know,
was
I
what
was
it was called.
yes, I was going to say that would be a great story.
She was driving a Subaru BRZ.
Was she?
Yes,
Yeah.
she was.
Really?
Yeah.
So
And
my
guess-
grandfather bought that when he was 100 years old.
and guess who's driving it now?
Our oldest daughter.
Wait, what color is it?
It's silver.
I think I've seen.
You probably.
I
have.
think I have. I think I've seen her driving it.
You probably.
Maybe a few
Really
years
fast.
ago,
She was a
right?
caretaker also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She,
Oh,
up until a few years
okay.
ago, she was
Okay.
driving it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I have a
I
quick
love
question,
that.
just for women and people who you are really connecting with driving. Is it about being behind the wheel and the freedom to go wherever you want to go, or the community of it all, or the journey where it? I mean, what is it that you're finding the common thread with other women who are getting more and more involved with this?
You know, really what it comes down to is women feeling comfortable in their own skin. Like, especially with driving on a track. A lot of times they're just so afraid to make that step to get out there. But I've noticed with women that if they know there are other women there, or women supporting them, or like just taking them on a ride along to feel more comfortable, as long as they have that support and that the community there, that is a huge difference in their confidence. So
Women are more afraid of being judged by men than they are
Yes.
crashing their car with other women.
it's true of some people. Yes, some people are so intimidated, and I get that. I was there back in the day. I was super intimidated to be at the drag strip because it was all men at the drag strip. But I think for me, I never really did this as like a moneymaker thing. It's my passion, it's my hobby, and so I like to help people. Like, I'm just a natural like people pleaser and a helper. And so when I go out to the track and I'm able to just give a little bit of advice or give a hug or have someone say like, oh my gosh, you're here. Thank God you're here. I didn't want to come. I was so nervous. just stuff like that is like what makes my day. Totally makes my day. So, and for me, like life is all about just being happy. Like I'm not like a huge, like, oh, I do this for money or I do this for clout or whatever. No, like, especially being a cancer survivor, I've learned that you have to do what makes you happy. And I like making people happy and I like making people confident. I've taken my daughter out to an autocross when she first started driving, and her confidence level after that was unbelievable. So yeah, I think, I love that there are women out there who can just step up and be like, I will help you. I will, I'll help you do this. Or, even if it's just, I've had people ask me just random stuff like, I want to buy this for my car, but I don't feel comfortable asking a guy for his opinion because they will sometimes judge me because I don't know what I'm doing. So like women will go to other women and ask like, what should I do about this on my car? And although,
just so you know, guys have the same issues. We're just better at hiding it.
Yes.
Like, oh, look confident, like you've done this before,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no difference. And we get intimidated. You show up and there's some guy wrenching. It's like, God, I wish I could do that. I
Yeah.
No, I don't get intimidated at all. It's like, well, there's somebody that can work on my car because I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Find somebody better than you to work on your car. Would you say? What would you say that the biggest, I guess, intimidating thing or the biggest fear that women have just getting into it? Because a female viewer watching this right now, what do you think her biggest fear might be, and what would you say to that person to help her overcome? Because I see what you're saying. I totally and it's like, okay, a woman might be intimidated, but I'm thinking, well, why?
Yeah,
just do it, But there's things that I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a woman,
well, okay, so for instance, at the track, it is a majority of men. And a lot of the times, like for instance, as a driver, when I'm on the track and I'm actually driving, this is what I try and tell a lot of women. When I'm driving, when you're out there, it's not men and women. It's other cars. You don't have that in your head when you're actually driving. So I keep telling people, just don't think about that, because when you're on the track, you're just looking out for the other cars. When you have your helmet on, you can't even really tell who's driving. So I always tell them, like, don't think about it like that. Don't be too intimidated. Just know, like, if you are a beginner, start in the beginner's class. Don't think because your car looks like it's fast and it has a lot of power, it's the driver. So be in a beginner's class and just do your thing and make sure that you wave people by if you feel uncomfortable, because a lot of guys will get pissed if a girl is out there and she's not waving people, because you're really supposed to, it's etiquette, supposed to wave people by.
Dudes do that too.
Yeah, they do. I had that problem actually at the track last time.
It's like golf. It's like any other sport, right?
Yes.
Stay in your lane until you're able to move into a
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you'll probably have
Yeah.
more fun if you do it that way, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because if
Yeah.
you bite off more than you can chew.
Yes.
It could.
I had the most fun in beginner class at Streets of Willow. And when my car was stock and I ran in the beginner class, it was the most fun because I'm learning things.
Right.
Because sometimes they'll have you have a driver or instructor with you when you're doing the class, and you're learning things that you didn't know before. Whereas there will be guys that go straight into the intermediate class that don't know nothing. They think they know everything, and they end up being total clowns on the track. And they're like, "Dude, what's this guy doing here?"
Right.
Yeah, and the one thing that's great too, at least with Extreme Speed, who I work with a lot, they're one of my sponsors. Their beginner class that they do.
Say their name again. Just
Okay, yeah.
we want you to get as much credit as you can.
Extreme Speed track events that Joel's been in the business for years doing track events, and so he does a lot of hosting of track days at Big Willow and Streets of Willow, and Horse Thief as well. But he also runs a Subaru themed track day called Subi Jam. So we get a lot of Subaru enthusiasts that come out for his stuff. But one thing I love about his events for beginner class is that they do this follow along where on the very first time you run, there is a skilled driver as the first car, and then the cars all follow that driver so you can learn the line. So that way they're trying to set you up to have the proper line for racing. And then what's great is you go around once, and then the person that's behind him gets over, and then the cars move up, and you do that throughout the entire lap. So that way you learn the line, you're comfortable. You learn getting over, letting people go around you. And so I always felt that was super important because not a lot of people do that on track days, depending on who's hosting it. So that was kind of cool. The girls enjoy that too.
Because I keep thinking of our daughter, Katie. I think she would love this.
I think she would
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And I'm even just thinking when she got her license, and then we did the thing down at the Camarillo Airport where they did
The Porsche was Porsche. The
That's
Porsche
right,
Club.
Porsche Club for safety. And spinning out and driving over pooled water and all these different things and how to get yourself out of obstacles and problems.
Right. Oh, and that reminds me too. So I just partnered up with my friend Melissa, who started a company called Karma Care, California. She used to do it out in Colorado, but basically she gets a class together of women, and it doesn't have to be women. It can be young kids. It can be anybody who's a first-time driver. And she goes through the car and teaches them the basics of the car.
Wow.
So what do all these lights on the dashboard mean? And how do I check my tire pressure? How do I change my tire? How do I check my fluids? Just the basic stuff, because they don't necessarily teach you that stuff.
Yeah.
When you do like driver's training.
Yeah.
So
It's fallen on a lot of dads.
yeah.
Or
yeah,
moms.
Right. Yeah. Well,
There's a lot of dads out there. There's the guys that don't know this stuff too.
It's
right?
true.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately. you know.
yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, so she just had her first class at my shop a couple weeks ago. And it was
a great idea. Great idea.
It's a
Yeah.
great, and she got such great feedback. And actually, Porsche is going to partner up with her and host one of the events because they like the women
that's cool.
to come out, the new Porsche drivers to come out and learn a little bit about the cars. So she's going to do one there, and then we have an event on the 30th at the Haggerty Garage Social in Van Nuys, and it's a Women in Motorsports car show. But after the car show, she's going to do a class for.
That's awesome.
And I think she already got a bunch of people who signed up for it. So
I got a quick story about Katie in that Porsche class. So at one point, this was held by the Porsche Club, right? The Santa Barbara Porsche Club. And it's out at the Camarillo Airport. And we showed up in my 1995 Integra GSR, 5-speed. Mm-hmm. She went through that entire class, shifting and, I mean, she was throwing the car around just the way they wanted her to. And I'm standing in the tent at one point with about 10 dads. And one of them goes, no, here it comes. Here comes the car. And here goes the Integra. There goes Katie. Look, she's shifting. She's shifting. She's mad. I'm like, watch her. Watch her when she
Like
comes
they were
out.
surprised?
They were stunned that she was, because everybody else had, regular old automatics. And they're just,
right.
And here she is. You could hear the way she was shifting. And so that when we were driving home, I said, you impressed a bunch of the dads.
yeah, that's.
She's like, what do you
awesome.
mean? And I said, yeah. So I told her the story. She's like, she had this huge smile.
Oh,
on her
that's
face.
great.
Yeah.
That was a great car.
So I think what you're talking about, I think she would love this.
Yeah, she would.
yeah.
And she already has the Subaru.
Yeah.
So
So I always recommend if you're starting out, and especially if you want to get into track racing, I think autocross is the best way to start.
I agree.
That's kind of how I got into track racing.
Well,
Was
you just in a
autocross.
nutshell autocross.
Yes.
What would
Okay.
that
So I know there's so many different types of racing. So rallycross is different. That's like in the dirt and you're like on a course, and that's kind of wild. Autocross is a little less harsh on your car. It's basically a cone course setup. The one I first did was in Fontana, which is no longer. They're tearing it down. Auto Club Speedway. And they set up a small course. You typically are in first and second gear the whole time, but it's a lot of cornering, maneuvering, getting used to the way your car feels. Super fun. They typically time it. So you can kind of like get yourself, squared away and then get a little bit better throughout the day. But that was, like I said, I took my daughter on that and she loved it. But yeah, I recommend if you want to feel comfortable with your car or if you have a kid, you want your kid to feel comfortable with your car, autocross is the way to do it.
Yeah,
I
they
agree.
usually do it in parking lots, sometimes at airports, and
yeah.
You don't really go too fast. So cars with less horsepower are usually better for that, because you are in first and second gear. And it's really fun too, because in most events, at least the ones that I've been to, not only do can you participate, you actually need to volunteer to help pick up cones when people hit the cones. So it also helps you need to walk the track to learn the track, because learning your line, learning your track is very important.
Sure.
And autocross is like the miniature version to do that.
Sure.
So it's always a great place to start, and it's cheap. It's
And I think that was incorporated with what Katie did.
Oh, no,
at
that was an
Camarillo.
autocross. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
that was
I remember
awesome.
they used to do that at the Camarillo Airport, and I wish they still did that because there's not a lot of places to go to autocross now that they closed Auto Club Speedway, because a lot of it was done there.
Yeah, and they used to do it at the Forum down in LA. That's where I went, and I think they stopped doing
the parking lot?
Yeah, the parking lot. Yeah, so
It's fun.
Yeah.
And typically you work. So like I would run, and then I would have my shift during the day where I would work. So I would stand out there. If somebody hit a cone, I'd run. And so you
Put it
get
back
a little
up.
bit of a workout at the same time.
Well, I have to say, as somebody who drives a lot between where we live and down south to San Diego to see family and that sort of thing, the way people drive today on the freeways is crazy. So I think it's really behooves all of us drivers to know how our cars respond
Absolutely.
to everything.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, and I've been driving Beth's 61 Corvair, and one thing about those brakes, well, you got to anticipate.
Yes.
Yeah.
you do.
So you're right. Every car is different. Every car is a different feel. The brakes are different. Steering's different.
Yeah,
And
that's so true. When I had been driving my Subaru for years, and then I got my 240 back, which is rear wheel drive, and I got so babied by my all wheel drive that I remember the first time I was driving my 240 in the rain, and I came up a little too fast on the stop, and I lost it. I like swirled, and I remember thinking to myself, okay. Remember, this is not all-wheel drive. Take a step back. Remember you have a rear-wheel drive car.
You say you're a fast driver. Are you a patient driver?
Unfortunately, no. And that's the hard part, because I always tell people, I'm so sorry if you have seen me somewhere because you remember my car and I was mean. Or I think what it is it's not that I just like to drive fast, unfortunately. And so I like to just get where I need to go, and I like to drive fast, and I enjoy driving. So that's what part of the reason why I want to get a car that's maybe not so crazy, because I feel like it will tone me down just a little bit.
it'll force you to slow down, right?
You have lead in your vans, don't you?
Yeah, probably. But that's one of the reasons why I like driving my 240 now, because my 240 is the slow car. It's not the fast car. It's a cruiser, and I only take it to shows and stuff. So I kind of like driving that, especially now that I'm like getting closer to my late 40s. I feel like I need to tone it down just a little bit. So going to like car shows and cruises and stuff is kind of nicer.
Speaking of shows, you just did a show this past weekend, right?
Yeah, we had a big show we did yesterday called Cars and Coffee Classics in Anaheim. And it's run by Izzy and his team of guys. They're amazing. They put on the best Cars and Coffee besides Ventura.
I knew that was coming.
It's great because they rent the entire promenade of Anaheim, and it's shut down, and they have the racetrack comes in. Frank and his team come in, and then
the Hot Wheels, right?
The Hot Wheels, and that's how I met him. By the way, was at those events, because this was our third women themed event that we did with them, and it's mostly JDM classics, but everybody's welcome to come. So you get a really good mix of cars.
How many people show up? How many people? How many cars?
Well,
Sounds big.
on a typical day, I think it's like 200 to 300 people, because I think there's enough space for parking for a couple hundred, but there's a parking garage there as well. And so when that fills up, because it always fills up, you have to get there early, and then it fills up. And then there's the overflow in the parking garage. And so sometimes you have a whole car show in the parking garage.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of photographers and videographers come, and they'll just hit the parking garage because there's amazing cars in there. So it's,
Everybody who slept in ends up in the parking garage, right?
yeah, pretty much.
Talking to the women that you work with and help and try to encourage, do you find them wanting to come to more events like Cars and Coffee, or do they like the track events, or is it any particular?
Well, so mostly cars. It's mostly car shows. There's a lot more girls that do shows. There's not a whole lot of girls that are into racing. I'm seeing a big shift recently. And actually, COVID, it's kind of funny. COVID did something. I think a lot more women were getting out there and driving because there was no more car shows. Like everything just kind of stopped. So I think a lot of girls were getting out there and driving, going for cruises. You know, people could be in their cars and still meet up. And so I noticed a lot more drivers after COVID. But for the most part, there are a ton of car girls, and they maybe aren't interested in racing. They're just interested in showing their cars. And it's a huge age range too. I have young girls out there who are 16, 17, and they bring their cars out. And there are some women that I meet that are in their 80s and they come out with their cars. And
cool.
It's awesome. I love it. And I love the stories. So I love hearing all the stories. I love meeting all the people.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. The Cars and Coffee Classics that we do is great because it's in a good location. A lot of the women tend to be more in LA area. So I think on a typical lady-driven day, we get maybe between 100 and 150 women out there with their cars.
That's a good crowd.
Yeah. Our very first one we did was amazing. We had people who were a little upset because the lines were going back to the freeway.
Wow.
There was so many people trying to get in, and we ran out of space. So the whole parking garage was full. It was crazy. So we got a really good response on it. And that's why Izzy, I think, is cool with doing like a couple a year. So we try and do like 1 to 2 a year.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Yeah. They've got their stuff down. They're Izzy and them, they're so good at what they do. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing events with them, because they're also a little more old school. I'm kind of old school. I tend, that's one of the things. So I'm known as car mom out in the car industry because most of the people that I'm around are in their 20s. I'm like the old lady of the car scene. so for me, it's funny because I'm a little old school, and so I like doing events sometimes with Izzy, especially because they're around my age, and it just makes things a little easier sometimes. But I've done so many I've done shows here at the shop down the street, and I think we got maybe like 60 or 70 girls that came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the whole parking lot was full.
That's cool.
It was really cool. And then we've done the track days where we try and get all female run groups where it's all just girls doing one run. Mm-hmm. But if we don't get enough girls, we want to be fair to everyone and make sure everybody has the same track time. So then we'll just mix it up a little bit. But for the most part, it's been awesome. We have our first drift event coming up where I'm doing a co-hosting with another company called Drift Depot. He's real big in the drift industry, but he's collaborating with me. So we're doing I think we have maybe 5 girls signed up to do that event. But the tickets has sold out within like 10 hours.
That's cool.
So,
if somebody was interested in what you've been talking about, all these shows or, drifting or whatever, and somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how could they get in touch with you to get more information about all these things that we've talked about?
So my Miss Motorhead page on Instagram is where I put everything. I put all of the events. That page is also a feature page. So when I meet a woman somewhere or I see somebody online who I'd like to feature, I put features of people on there so that other girls can meet other car girls. And that's not just cars. I feature women with motorcycles, off-road vehicles, trucks, cars. Pretty much everything is on that page. But I also just started Miss Motorhead Racing. So I have a racing page that's going to be dedicated to just racing. So the Miss Motorhead page is the main page for events and everything related to it. But then the Miss Motorhead Racing is going to be this little niche kind of racing chapter of it where I'm going to try and sponsor more women at the track and do more track events and stuff like that.
So you have 3 Instagram handles then?
Unfortunately, I manage 5 Instagrams. It's really hard because I have my day job. I have my personal page, Lane Drifters. I have Miss Motorhead Racing, and then I have the Lane Drifters apparel, which I'm phasing out. So
Wow.
It's a lot. Social media is a lot.
Yes,
Yes,
a lot of
it is.
work.
yes, it is.
Are you getting a crook in your neck because you're old?
Yeah, it's weird for me because I'm an older woman. I don't like social media is like, oh, like
This big
I'm
monster.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all the time, and it's constantly changing. There's all these like rules and algorithms, and
Yeah.
and luckily I have one of I call her my car daughter, Alma. I've known her since I think like for 4 years now, and she's been there from day one for Miss Motorhead. So she's my car daughter / my marketing girl, and she does a lot for me. She does a lot of shows with me, and so she's 21, so she kind of gets it, like,
Yeah.
and so I rely on her for a lot of like the younger stuff. She's got a lot of great connections with friends, and she's such a sweet, awesome girl. I got super lucky with her, so. So luckily I have like, I'm kind of old school, but I have like the ties with the younger girls and stuff. So it keeps me up on my social media stuff.
It's important. I cried several times during remote work and during the pandemic, and my youngest daughter had to come help save me.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, it's a lot of work. And I even have the little warning that comes up on my phone that says, you're getting too much screen time.
Oh, yeah.
Tone it down. I have like a little alarm that says, okay, over.
That's hard when you manage 5 Instagram
Yeah.
accounts and your business is
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I've also struggled with my personal page, which is Lane Drifters. It's my personal page, but I'm in my hobby. My life is cars. So although it has my personal stuff on it, I don't put my really, really personal stuff like my kids. And I don't tend to put a lot of that stuff on there, but it is my personal page. And so I'm trying to keep up on that, but having a business in the industry, in the car industry, they all kind of cross paths. And so it gets a little tricky at times. I'm sure you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, everybody that I know, I was actually thinking about it last night. Everybody that I know is through cars.
Oh.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I came to Ventura because of cars. You know, because of a friend that I met because of cars. You know, I met you because of
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, we've been talking about everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
You go to a show and it's like, oh, so-and-so knows so-and-so.
yeah. I mean, the network of people, that's why I think it's really interesting and important, too, to talk about women, because you have to include women. Like back in the day, I don't want to date ourselves since we were both at the same event at Battle Imports, but you see somebody like Lisa Kubo, drag racing. She's literally the only female, and she was fast. She was no joke.
Yes.
Like, she goes toe-to-toe with the dudes, and
She was the first, I think it was 7. She was like the fastest import back in, what was it, like 2004? I don't even remember. I don't want to say wrong specs, but she is very well known in the drag racing industry. And like I said, she really was. There was maybe a couple of girls out there.
yeah. And when the imports started to get some notice from, like, you know, the NHRA, and like they did some exhibition events where they brought some of the fastest Hondas or whatever imports to a NHRA sanctioned event, you know, and of course they get hated on, you know, like typical, you know, which is fine, whatever. But she was one of those drivers. So it was like a female. So, and there's been female drag racers forever. And actually there was this story I read about how they tested the reaction times of females versus males, and they said, and hey, I didn't write the article, someone did, that they said that females had a faster reaction time
I
than
believe that.
men, which, of the test,
Yeah.
you know, which is plausible because there's a lot of fast female drag racers, a lot of them,
Yeah.
you know. So I was like, oh, maybe there's something to that, but I wish there was more, you know.
Well,
Yes,
Shirley
yeah.
Muldowney was one of the ones I knew. I don't. Am I going way?
Yeah.
Shirley Muldowney.
Well, but there's people that, though, the people that know what you're saying are dating themselves too. So
yeah, I guess
you're relatable.
The
All right, for not being
the
a
blank
car
look
guy?
I got from everybody was like,
For not being a car guy, what was her nickname?
ooh, shoot.
Dan, you know
So
this.
you
don't
know her?
You know this.
I
Dan.
do know this because my dad used to drag race and used to go to Lions and stuff.
The
What- does
Mr. Non-Car guy.
know.
Your dad was a drag racer, Mr. Non-Car.
I know.
I was going to
Dan,
call on you. We weren't hearing from you. I'm like,
Dan-
Dan, to say.
Dan is hiding stuff from us. He's actually a car guy. Watch.
You know, I know I'm going to get this
What is
wrong,
it?
but
What
I-
is it?
But I thought, oh man, it wasn't Mongoose, was it?
No.
No, that was
was it?
Prudhomme was Mongoose,
Was
wasn't
Purdue
it?
Mongoose?
One of them was Mongoose. Man, we obviously we don't know what the hell
who
we're
is it?
talking
We
about.
don't know who is it. What is it?
I believe her name was Cha Cha.
Really?
Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney. Yeah.
Gee,
Someone's gonna fact check
I wouldn't
us.
Yeah,
in the
someone's
comments.
gonna. I'm not a car guy, so if I screwed it up, no biggie. But
But my point was,
Yeah.
and I know I dated myself by the blank looks, but Shirley Muldowney was really, I mean, 70s? Tell me, Dan. 70s?
yeah, it would have been
80s?
70s if I would have been a kid.
Yeah, exactly. So, but she ruled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knew
I
Shirley
know the
Muldowney.
name. I just don't know like the story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but
cool.
there's some
Going way
history, there,
back
a lot of
here.
history. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know about Jungle Pam, though, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I saw her in real life.
Who didn't? Oh, real? Oh.
Wow. No, in real life I saw her. Yeah, she was something.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know
The
this.
ladies
one.
are going, who are you talking
We'll have to
about?
get an image of Jungle.
Who's
Jungle Pam is.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was. She was.
She changed the game in drag racing for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
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 Well, that sounds like another show.
It is. It is.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny too because although I had some family in the domestic scene, I never really grew up in the domestic scene. I kind of started with imports.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always kind of been this JDM kind of. I love 80s and 90s JDM. Like that's my favorite.
Yeah.
As far as cars go. So, but not necessarily because my dream car is the BMW E31, the
Oh,
850
yeah, okay, yeah.
CSI in particular. What is it? Dynan? They've
Yeah.
only made
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
Dynan. They made a few hundred of those.
Yeah, DINAN.
I think that's what
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
Dynan, yeah.
that's my dream car. So eventually, I will get one of those one day.
Yeah, I'm sitting here dying to pick up my phone and Google mongoose.
No, I just looked
Did you
up.
do it?
Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney was,
Is that
that
it?
was her nickname. Yeah.
Man.
You want to look up Jungle
So who's
Pam.
mongoose? Which one was the
Oh, you definitely want to. Dan's looking up Jungle Pam right now on the
Pam.
computer, aren't you, Dan?
Well, I know Jungle Pam.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look her up. Yeah. too.
Our buddy Steve Feist knows Jungle Pam too, so he's got a artwork from like a photo montage
Yeah.
artwork
Yeah.
from her. Yeah.
Hey, while we're talking about this, Christina, what is your day job?
So I work in ad specialties. So branding, basically, I put people's logos on things. So I typically do on a day business cards, letterhead, but I also get to create logos and art for the automotive scene is kind of morphed into my day job. So I get a lot of my friends who come to me for stuff. But yeah, I typically do a lot of promotional products. That's kind of what I do in my day job, which has helped me because I love being creative and I love working on art. Like I made my logo. And so it's helped me because I also have merch that I sell for Miss Motorhead. So it's kind of allowed me to be creative in my own way. And I know a lot about apparel. And so, so everything just seems to kind of go hand in hand with my day job.
In
so.
this business, especially in the automotive, everything's branding, logo, appearance. You know, you've got to brand yourself. Everything has a brand. I mean, even the cars and coffees have brands now. So I mean, it's almost you can't avoid that, right? So it's going to happen regardless whether you want it to or not, right?
Yeah, it's fun. I've been doing that for like 20 years. So it's a lot of fun. I'll end up actually the owners are going to be retiring, so I'll be buying that business in probably about a year. So yeah, and it's right around the corner from here. So
That's very
it
cool.
took me about a minute to come over here.
Speaking of branding, do you have kind of a mantra? Mine is I'm just along for the ride, which I love. Do you have a mantra with all that you do?
You know, not really. I mean, when somebody asks me like what is Miss Motorhead, I basically just let people know that I'm a support system for women in all motorsports. But not really. I feel like I have this like mantra in life of just having fun. I mean, life is so short that like you just have to enjoy life. I've been through the ringer a few things, and I've just learned that like life is so short. I've had people pass away unexpectedly, and there were so many things they wanted to do in life. And so as soon as I think a couple of years ago, I finally made myself a bucket list, and I've been trying to check everything off my bucket list. So
Get the old car back was one of them.
it
right?
was actually
Yeah, that's
that
cool.
was on my bucket list. I had on there. It's funny. One of the things on my bucket list that's been on my bucket list for about 2 years now since I met Natasha is I wanted Natasha on my podcast. Natasha is amazing in
Natasha
automotive.
Adams, right?
Natasha Adams, yes. And I one time I was like, I would love to interview her while she's taking me off roading.
That's what we can do. How about that? So to help her knock off one of the last ones, we will give up the studio and have Natasha come in. We're going to put the pressure on Natasha to come in.
I'm pretty sure she can
She's going
handle
to join
it.
us in studio, and
She's
we'll let you just
awesome.
take over. How's that?
She's awesome. I love her. But yeah, the bucket list thing. I always recommend everybody, and I hang my bucket list on my refrigerator because I feel
reminder.
like you need to see it. I like to see it every day. I like to be reminded that there are these things that are important to me, and I'm going to get them done. I'm going to do them. And yeah, I've worked really hard at trying to get them all done. It is hard because I'm a mother first, like that's my job. So trying to fit all of this stuff into my life is tricky, but my kids are now going off to college. And so it's more so about me now. So I'm trying to figure life out and get it all done. Yeah.
But you said, you're like the car mom, and then you're, the women that you help, usually, 20 or whatever. And your mantra is helping others, get, I'm sure some of the females watching this too might experience some of the things that are the challenges that you've had to experience yourself and stuff that you'd like to impart to them. What would you say to some a female right now that wants to go to a car show or wants to go racing or wants to go drifting or whatever, but is just hesitant? What would you say to her to encourage her to just go and do it? Because
Right.
I'm sure that's the first barrier, right? Is to just get up and do it.
Yes. So one of the things I think that has helped in that sense is if I meet somebody and they say, oh, I really want to go to a track day, but I don't know anybody out there and I'm nervous or whatever, I will be the one to be like, okay, what day do you have this day free? I will come and we will drive there together. So I think if they have just someone by their side, same thing with a car show. If I have someone that's like, I want to take my car, but it's not like in tip-top shape and it's not a car show car. I'm like, everyone has started somewhere. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people appreciate stock cars now.
Oh, yeah.
Like not everybody likes cars that have all kinds of stuff done to them.
And a lot of people like dirt.
Yeah.
Don't even clean it. Just show up.
Right. Well, it shows you're driving your car. So
Exactly.
So I tell them like you cannot, you will never make everybody happy. You have to make you happy. So if it makes you happy with the idea of you bringing your car to a car show, that one first car show, once you get that done, you will be set up and good to go for all the other car shows.
Yeah.
You will be fine. I still get really nervous. I put my car in JCCS for the first time. And JCCS is one of those shows in my eyes that I look up to. It's like I love that show. I've been going to it for years.
Yeah.
It is everything I love, which is JDM, and it's old school JDM, which I love. And I was so intimidated to put my car in the show because I kept thinking, oh, everybody else's car is so much nicer than my car. Like I just can't. And my buddy Elaine, one of my best friends, he was like, he's like, no, like your car is mostly stock, but it's super clean, and even just the story behind your car makes it special. So you need to bring it. And I'm like, okay. So I did. I signed up. I didn't even think they would accept it. I was like, it's not even going to get accepted into the show. And it did. And I remember jumping up and down in my office like, oh my God, this is really happening. So even for me, I still have that intimidation factor. But when I did go to JCCS and I had my car on the lawn and I saw it sitting there, and I had people, I would stand in the background and I could see people taking pictures of it. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, my car. So,
I always think that when people take pictures of my car, they're doing it to talk crap about my car.
oh, yeah.
Insecurity
No.
is
That's why I don't like going to car shows.
Yeah, no, but then it's not the case, because then I remember a few times just going on Instagram and somebody who I don't know posted a picture of my car and they'd be like, this beautiful car. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, like that's my car. So even I do still get intimidated once in a while, but I think what it is it's the act of just showing up. So I always tell people, once you just show up and you're there and you do it and you leave, you feel empowered. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And all the fears that you had really aren't going to happen.
Nope.
Yeah.
They never do. I'll be honest with you. It's never really happened. I've only one time have had someone make a backhanded comment about my car, but in all honesty, yeah, my car is not up to par. It's not like a show car. So it's fine. Everybody's going to have their opinions. You just have to not take it to heart. So, yeah.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
That's great advice because for guys and girls, and not just with cars, with anything,
With life.
with life. So so you're definitely
absolutely.
applying your car, mantras. Actually, it's your life mantras if you think about it.
Right.
So
Well, Frank said the same thing, and when he was in a couple of weeks ago, De Jesus with the old Japanese. Yeah, I mean, he said the same thing. He goes, people pull up and they, I don't know if my car belongs here. Every car belongs here. Who cares how dirty it is or what it looks like? Just join us,
Well, and that's the one thing I love about Ventura Cars and Coffee. So one of my most favorite things, to be honest with you, is not necessarily even my car. It's the people.
yeah,
So I have formed so many friendships from that car show.
same here. Same
So
here.
and I pull up and I know they're going to be there, like Gary and John and Becky. Like there are just people there who I pull up and I'm just so excited because like I get to just see my car friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think it's one of those things too, especially because it's one of the things about cars and coffee in general, not just the Ventura one, but particularly the Ventura one, where I'll go there, I'll pull up, and I'll see the guys that I'm expecting to see, or girls, and have a conversation, and not see any of the other cars because I'm too busy talking for an hour and a half, and I'm like, "Oh, I gotta go home now," or whatever. But that's the cool part, It's and we share in stories. It's not so much the cars are just the medium, but really the stories behind it. And that's why we're here at West of Tulsa. We just want to capture these stories, And eventually, I'd like to have John and Becky and Gary on the show because they're like staples for Ventura.
I did a track day with Gary. Well, the last time I went to Streets, he came. He was there, so it was so much fun to see him out on the tracks. His car is so fun to watch.
Gary is was his handle Lights
GTR
on Instagram.
Yeah.
And he has a Nissan Skyline GTR, and it's a really interesting. It's black with these pink kind of like race inspired kind of
like
design,
almost ad
van.
style,
Yeah, there's a famous Japanese race car that is black and red, but he did black and pink, and it's pretty wild. I like it.
It has different color wheels. It has bright yellow, and
you can't miss this car. It's like it stands out. But the guy's super super cool. This is really funny, and he's just a really good guy to kind of chat with. So he's just a character. And he just goes to all these shows, and he's a photographer too, I think.
He's a really good photographer.
We've met the nicest, neatest people through cars. We really have.
Yeah.
It draws a really interesting, salt of the earth kind of person.
Right. Yeah, it really does. And I have noticed too, with being a woman in automotive, I do try and go up and talk to people. It's hard for me sometimes because I am as much as social as I am. I do get nervous talking to people, but I have noticed that people just come up and talk to me now, which is great. I feel like it's gotten more comfortable for people. Maybe after COVID, I think COVID did something to the car industry, and I think people were so tired of being home and not being social. And I feel like now things have gotten way more social because even before COVID, I don't remember going to car shows and it being so friendly and and forming all these bonds with people. So
and now that you've been on West of Tulsa, it's going to be just maddening.
It was
We're
on
gonna
her.
approach you all over the place.
It was on her bucket list.
Supermarkets.
yeah,
You're not going to be able to go anywhere. You've been in West of Tulsa. Everybody knows.
It's funny. I was so excited. To be honest with you, I did my podcast, but I was super nervous even doing my podcast. But to be interviewed by other people, because I was on my friend's podcast a couple years ago. He has a Subaru podcast, so he interviews people with Subarus. And so, but his was just over the phone. It was the phone thing.
Yeah, this is a different setting.
This is different, yeah. And it's funny when you say if people see you out and about. I remember the first time I was ever noticed for my car stuff. I was driving in traffic somewhere a few hours from here. I don't know if it was San Bernardino, and I was sitting in my Subaru, sitting in bumper to bumper traffic, and this person pulls up next to me. They're like, "Oh my God, it's Motorhead!" And I was like, "What is going on?" And I rolled my window down, and I was like,
that's funny.
"Hi!" And she's like, "Oh my God, I love your events!" And it was the sweetest thing ever. And I literally I cried in my car because it was so sweet. It was the first time somebody actually said something that I wasn't a close friend or something. So so I do see people on occasion out in public that I don't know, or like the other day I was driving and I pulled up at a stoplight behind a car and it was a random car and they had my sticker on the window. And I'm like, I kind of took a double take. Like, I think that's my sticker. It was my Speed Nuts design that I made. And my daughter had her camera that she had rented from college. So it was this like fancy camera. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take photos. So she like was zooming in on it and taking photos. And I was like, this is so weird. It feels weird to like see my art out on some random car. So there are instances now where like I'll see saw somebody wearing a Miss Motorhead t-shirt in a different state.
Wow.
I was like, this is so weird. This is so
To be recognized on a freeway, though, is pretty amazing. And
that was
bumper traffic.
pretty
That's
funny.
awesome.
That was pretty. My car kind of stands out a little bit, so I'm sure she saw my car and she was like, "Oh yeah, that's Miss Motorhead." But that was a weird moment for me because I was like, that was so sweet, and just the fact that she was so excited. The fact that I can make someone be comfortable enough and excited enough to like go to a show is like everything.
Yeah.
So,
Scream at you on the freeway.
yeah, and scream at me on the freeway. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it was pretty fun.
I'm afraid to ask this next question.
Oh, okay.
Where'd Speed Nuts come from?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's the donut. Okay, so there's the donut shop. What was it? So it's Speed Nuts. A donut shop is my art. So basically, it's a donut. It says Speed Nuts.
Oh, instead of Spud Nuts?
Instead of Spud Nuts, it's Speed Nuts. So that's
glad I
I
asked.
created
Okay,
that
good.
one.
All right.
Yeah, that's right. And thank you for saying that because I couldn't remember the name of the donut shop. But yes, Spud Nuts. So I took
Definitely
it and
dating ourselves because I don't
Yes.
think young people know what
Yeah.
Spud Nuts
That's
are.
We have
right.
Spud Nuts still.
Exactly.
Old
Do we still
school. In our
have
town,
Spud
we
Nuts?
do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where Speed Nuts came from, and then I have on top of the donut. There's two cars that are drifting on the donut. So
Okay, good.
yeah.
All right. we couldn't have left today without knowing what Speed Nuts and where that came from.
So are we ending the show on that or?
Look, if you have more questions, if you want to elaborate on Speed Nuts, I'm ready.
Actually, no. You do have a sticker. I think I just saw you posted about something about. If I did have balls, they'd be bigger than yours.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Okay, I have a couple stickers that are like one of my biggest sellers. The first one I created was if I had balls, they'd be bigger than yours. That one, it actually went over really well.
I can imagine.
With women, I would
And,
imagine.
with women, but I also had lots of men buy it and then they stick it on their friend's bumper.
That is good.
And
That's
a
good.
few of them didn't notice it for weeks.
Wow.
And so I've had comments like that. So guys sometimes buy it as a joke.
That's funny.
And then the other one I sell a lot of at shows, like yesterday I sold a few, is the one that says my other right is your dad. That one is it's a little more harsh, but I sell a ton of them. And I got so many guys who were like, well, I want one that says mom. And I'm like, okay. So I made one for the guys and it says my other right is your mom. So, but I have women who requested that too.
Wow.
So anyways, but that's the thing with me. I am not normal.
Are any of us really?
not normal.
I mean, we have a show about cars.
I'm not normal. I'm a bit crude with my humor sometimes. I mean, I've been in the car industry for so long.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends are car guys. And so I've just gotten used to having this certain humor. And it's a bit much for some people, but I incorporated that into Miss Motorhead a little bit. And I think that's what people appreciate about it is that it's just me. I just go for it. Life is short.
I think we buried the lead.
I was just going to say, I think we buried the lead. We
Yeah.
should have started with all of
Yeah,
this.
that's right. Well, that is funny.
So, since with all the popularity with male and females buying those stickers and stuff, I'm going to ask this question: is the single people, the single females and single, would you say that the car show, the cars and coffee scene would be helpful for the single guys and gals to meet each other? I'm not saying you should hook up, but is this, I mean, because we're people and, if the single people, like
Yes.
Helm, he's single still.
Yes, yeah.
And
So this is a tricky subject for me because I've been single for a couple of years. I'm divorced. And because I have so many friends in the car industry, I try not to date in the car industry because it can get awkward if you date someone and then you go to car shows and
This
see
is a
them all
whole
the
show.
time.
I can tell you this is a whole show.
Oh, yeah.
now.
Relationships and cars.
What's
Yeah.
funny about that is I was invited to be on a dating app that is for car people.
What?
There is a dating
It
app
exists?
for car people.
Well, there's an app for everything
I
now, I
didn't
guess.
know that.
They're on Instagram. They messaged me and I joined it for a little while, but then I got off of it.
What's it called?
You know what? I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'd have to look it
okay.
up, but I can let you guys know. But it's kind of funny because but the thing is it's all over the U.S. and so I was finding that I was one of the only women like in California, so I was getting a million messages, and it was kind of overwhelming. So I ended up just deleting the app. But I thought it was cool. It's a great app. I mean, everybody used to tell me, when are you going to start a Subaru dating app? Because I had so many Subaru people because I was big in the Subaru world and so I had single Subaru girls and I at one time was a matchmaker and I was trying to set people up and so everybody was like, well, when are you going to start a Subaru dating app? And I'm like, yeah.
Do you feel it's important for guys and girls, especially if they're car people, to share that car passion, or do you think it's not necessary? I mean, obviously it's not necessary, but do you think it's? Would you encourage like some of the females that you talk to find a mate that might be into cars too, or would you say it doesn't matter?
Well, okay, so I'll bring myself into this for a little while because I, for a long time, tried to find somebody I could date in the car scene because I wanted somebody I could have in common, like stuff in common with, and it's just really hard because what I've found with car people, and me included, is that you're all about your cars. And I was noticing like when I tried to date car guys who are really into cars, they're just not that interested in like, they like the idea of dating, but their life is their cars. That's all weekend long.
You shouldn't
their
be
cars.
agreeing. She should,
That's not in her head.
Wait a
Oh
minute.
my goodness.
Your head should be moving that like that.
I can't stop it.
Yeah, cars. It's especially people who have YouTube channels or and like they make money monetizing. They will spend weekends creating their content, and there's no time for dating. So it's really hard to date car people. I would love to date a car person if I could find someone, but it's tricky.
Do you think there's competition? Like if your car was better than his car, do you think that might be a problem?
Nope, because I'd win all the time. So
No.
there's no competition.
Do you think it'd be a problem for the guy?
Well, maybe.
I can feel another bumper sticker coming.
Yeah, you're giving me some good ideas here. No, I don't.
You're going to say something.
No,
I think
I'm not going to say anything.
I can tell by the look on your face.
There's a little bit of an obsession, though.
Yeah,
I used that word a few podcasts ago, but I think that's an accurate word.
Yeah, there is. It's especially for me. My weekends are cars. Like I go to car shows or races, and so it can be tricky for people who maybe have a car obsession because it's. I think obsession is probably a good word for it because I mean it's a hobby, but it becomes an obsession when you tend to overwrite all the other hobbies.
Yeah.
You see, Beth, it's not just guys.
No, it's not. No, I understand.
You might have thought it was guys.
I think
but
the one with all the wonderful positive things, the one negative for me is obsessing about a car that's just sitting there. And for me, I want to go somewhere.
Wait, sitting
I
there
wanna
in
do-
person or
just I want to go from A to B. I don't want to just stay at A and look at A. Does that make sense?
so you want to go use that car? You don't want to just
use
look
that
at it.
car.
You know what, Beth?
Yes.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one because the thing, look, I know this is going to piss off a lot of car collectors, is that I can't stand a car that you can't drive or don't want to drive. I can't stand it. That's why I don't like painting cars anymore. Because the second I paint the car, I don't want to drive it because the paint's so nice. I'm like,
Yes.
that's not what I did this for.
Yeah.
You know, so I agree with you, Beth, 100%.
Yeah.
Because a car is meant to be driven,
Absolutely.
not just looked at.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Absolutely. I agree. And but again, there are those people who just that's their thing. They collect cars and they want them pristine. They won't do anything with them. But
Yeah.
I am not. I'm the type that I'm hands-on. I like to drive, and that is one of the reasons why I will drive 2 hours for a car show.
Yeah.
Because I like driving there and I like driving home.
Yeah.
So I get a little bit
That's a
of
good way to do
both.
it.
It's all part of
Yeah.
part of the event. You know,
Yeah,
driving
right.
is the part of the
Yeah.
event.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when you do real quickly, when you do the rallies, are those destination rallies?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes we'll do, like, if we know there's an event in LA somewhere and it's like, a couple hours or an hour to drive there. We will get together a cruise and we'll all drive together out to the event. Or sometimes we'll do a photo shoot. We'll want to do a cool photo shoot somewhere at a beach somewhere, and we'll all just drive and do a photo shoot somewhere. But yeah, typically people love cruising together. Like a lot of, anytime we have a car show somewhere, I always know someone in the area is going to probably have their car there. So we'll try and connect with other people and all rally out there. And so, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah. No, I'm good. I don't want to do anything that I'm going to regret.
That would never happen, Gabe.
No, never.
No.
would. No.
We are so happy you joined us today.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great topic.
Absolutely.
This is so much fun. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
You're
on
great.
here,
It was
so.
really nice meeting you.
We
Thank
covered
you.
a lot of ground today.
Did we? Okay, good.
We did.
Okay, good.
I never thought we'd get into bumper stickers. I didn't think we'd get that far into it.
We could have a whole
But I'm
show.
glad we did.
could have a whole show on bumper
Bumper
stickers.
Oh my God, that would be so fun.
For sure.
There you go.
I think we're going to nominate Christina as one of our panel members for our bumper show.
She's gonna have to come up with a couple fresh ones for us.
I actually have a lot saved that are probably a little too crude. That
Oh, you're going to have to drop them on the show. I know. We're going to have to drop on the show the debut.
Let's premiere them. Yeah, let's premiere.
Premier
Yeah.
bumper stickers.
I'll tell you. I mean, I have the one on my car that says "My other right is your dad," and to be honest with you, I feel bad sometimes if I go to like where I know there's gonna be a lot of kids.
Jeez.
Because I'm a mom, so like I do feel bad, but at the same time, I'm like, I am what I am. Like that's just how I am. So, but yeah.
What does that mean? What does that mean,
Yeah,
Mommy? I see
right?
that.
Yeah.
Rides my dad. What
Yeah,
does that
and
mean?
I have girls who will buy the ball sticker, and they won't put it on the outside of their car, but they'll put it on their engine bay. So at least when they're open
pump
for
that-
shows,
that's
they're
awesome.
okay with it.
Attitude.
They're okay with it, but then they can close it.
I like
and
that.
they're okay. So,
I like that. We should definitely do a show with favorite bumper stickers
You could.
because
Yeah,
there's some
clever ones.
really, really good
There
ones.
There are some
my,
really good
My
ones.
favorite one right now is mostly their diesel pickup, like 2,500 pickup trucks, as I identify as a Prius.
oh yeah.
That's my favorite
Yep.
one right now.
Yep.
I mean, it's definitely current for the time.
It is.
Yeah. I've seen that one. I saw there's a few that I saw like people put on their cars. The old school cars typically is shitbox edition, and or caution parts may fall off, stuff like that. So
Yeah, those are the cleaner ones. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the cleaner ones.
Well, thank you again. We
Yeah,
had a
thank
great-
you
we had a great
guys. I
time this
appreciate
morning.
you.
nice
I
meeting you,
love your
Christina.
podcast. I'm so excited to like.
I think the only regret is that we didn't have to make you drive farther to get
I know, right? Darn.
after hearing this. All right.
Thank you.
All right. And don't forget, we got our tip line up. Go to our tip line. Go to westoftulsa.com. Go to the tip line page. Fill it out. We'd love to have you here in studio telling your stories. Don't forget, follow, like, subscribe. We also have our YouTube
Channel.
Thank you very much. And thank you for watching West of Tulsa.